It's the second episode of the greatest films ever made, in my personal opinion anyway. I'm sure a lot of you share these views, I hope so anyway. This second episode I wanted to look at a fairly recent-ish film, I guess. Well, it's actually a decade old now, which is kind of scary to think about. But it's a really great film and something I consider to be a really masterful film, In Bruges. The film is based essentially on two characters in particular, Ray, played by Colin Farrell, and Ken, played by Brendan Gleeson. You see that they've taken a trip to Bruges. It's in Belgium. It very quickly becomes clear that they're on a hideout. They're both hitmen, and they're hiding out after they've just done a hit. The nature of the hit is very mysterious and only really becomes clear half an hour or so into the film, and to say anything about it would be really giving it away, so it's a really shocking moment in the film. There's a bit of sightseeing and also some partying at night, and look at two men, one of them who's really distraught and the other one who's kind of trying to help him through that really, and it's a really beautiful and often quite touching film, as well as being one of the best dark comedies ever made, really funny and just a really biting sort of humour. The location of Bruges is so picturesque and it's just made for the cinema really. I think it's just shot so well when you look around this town, and it's a really beautiful place. Martin McDonough, the writer and director of the film, who's since gone on to make 7 Psychopaths and 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. I live on a busy street. Said in interviews that he got the idea for the film when he actually went on a trip to Bruges. One half of his brain was kind of interested in the picturesque quality of the place and was really interested in sightseeing, which is the manifestation of the character Ken. And the other side of his brain was more interested in just going out, getting drunk and having sex with prostitutes. And that's basically manifested in the character of Ray, played by Colin Farrell. And that's basically, the two characters came out and they sort of spiralled into fully three-dimensional characters from that, really.
Do you think this is good?
I think what's good?
You know, going around a boat, looking at stuff.
Yes, I do. It's called sightseeing.
There are amazing performances. The script and the direction of the whole film is really top-notch, and it really is one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen, and I think that is mainly due to the fact that the chemistry between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson on the screen is just wonderful, and they really do play off of each other very well. The first thing I wanted to say about the performances, I think Colin Farrell is really incredible, and I think this is, along with his performance in The Lobster, I think they're both rivaled in terms of his best performances. No one else could have really played the role. I think there's a real pathos in how he plays the role, and there's a real tragedy in his past which is learned throughout the film, and I think there's such a melancholic strand to the film that he really brings to the story as well, and I think he acts those scenes superbly. There's some real tear-jerking scenes in there that he just acts amazing in. Brendan Gleeson is wonderful as always, and he's become one of my favourite actors since seeing him in this film. I think he's really wonderful in everything he's in. This is the first one I saw him in, and he's amazing in it. And he's really a very brave character, and just a character that you really root for, and all the characters in this are great, which make you want to keep wanting to rewatch the film, and I think he's no exception. He's such a good character, the character of Ken. Clemence Posey plays Chloe, and again, this was one of the first films I saw her in, along with The Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter film, and she's really great in this as well. Plays someone who's very sweet, but also has a bit of a dark side to them as well, and she manages to balance those two things quite well. And of course, Ralph Fiennes as Harry is really quite something in this film, and I think it's, again, one of his best performances as well. There's just really career best performances running throughout this film, and he's fantastically sweary and just someone you really don't want to mess with. And of course, I think a bit of a shout out goes out to the character of Marie, played by Thekla Rutan, who is the hotel owner of the place that Ken and Ray are staying. And she's really lovely in this film. That it's really just a cameo role. She appears a few times in the film, but I think she's quite an important character as well. There's the character is pregnant as well at the time, and that becomes quite relevant towards certain points of the film in terms of Ray's character, and that's really interesting. Themes in it are of guilt and redemption mainly. Those are the kind of the main themes that are played around with in this film. In particular, in terms of heaven and hell, there's quite a religious allegory to the film, with Bruges being a metaphor for purgatory or limbo. In particular, for the character of Ray, you could look at the film as a bit of a metaphor for him being a bit of a limbo between heaven and hell. You know, he consistently says in the film Bruges is a shithole, and you know, but there's also a kind of a beauty to it that he kind of looks at as well, and so that's quite interesting to sort of look at it that way if you want to. Again, it's not particularly, it doesn't throw it in your face, it's kind of there if you want to see it. Whenever I watch the film, that sort of allegory doesn't come to me really, but it is just something that, because I really love this film, I've sort of looked into theories about it, and that's quite an interesting theory. And there's a real discussion between Ken and Ray talking about heaven and hell after the shocking revelation scene of what happens during their hit in the film, and it's it's sort of the main philosophical discussion between characters in the film, and there's a real philosophical core running throughout the film. It's really touching scene with them just coming to terms with having killed people while also trying to live a good life. You know, it's a really amazing part with Brendan Gleeson just explaining this.
And at the same time, trying to lead a good life. I have to reconcile myself with the fact that yes, I have killed people. Not many people. Most of them are not very nice people. Apart from one person. Who's that? This Danny Alaban's brother. Just trying to protect his brother. Like you or I would. Just a lollipop man.
Ken is an amazing father figure and friend to Ray. There's some really fantastic pieces of advice and support in certain scenes in the film. One scene I particularly wanted to point out was a really touching scene of Ray looking into the mirror with Ken looking at him and really concerned for his well-being. I think there's just this point when Colin Farrell is looking in the mirror and he's just tapping his face, and Brendan Gleeson looks at him and just looks so concerned for his well-being. It's a really touching moment and one of my favourite bits of the film, I think. Throughout that scene and throughout the film, there's a really great music score by Carter Burwell, who's one of the greatest musical composers ever. He frequently works with the Coen brothers and has also provided the music for In Bruges here for Martin McDonough, and I think it really accompanies the film very well. It's got this really memorable, beautiful piano score running throughout. It's edited by John Gregory, who has since gone on to work on 3 Billboards with Martin McDonough. He's also worked on a few projects of Mike Leigh's beforehand, and he seems to really just get the director's style as well, and he really portrays that on screen. If you look at something like 3 Billboards and In Bruges, those films in particular have these really quiet moments, such as the opening scene of 3 Billboards is just beautifully shot with these static shots with this music score, and In Bruges has similar shots. Some of them are panning, some of them are just static, mostly location pieces with this beautiful score by Carter Burwell. And they're just edited perfectly to accompany that. I think they're edited really well, and in terms of Mike Leigh's films as well, I think he really gets the director's style there as well and manages to get that through on screen and in the editing process. Overall, I really love this film. I think a lot of people have seen it. It was the first film in a great career and a very promising future for Martin McDonough. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really love making these videos. I hope you enjoy watching them too. Thank you very much and see you next time.